Hello everyone, Richard Carlton here. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker Training at fmtrain.tv, where every day at 1 o'clock Pacific time we're talking about the FileMaker platform, doing great and awesome things. All of you are doing great solutions for your customers. Hopefully they're great solutions. If all your customers hate you, that's probably not a good thing, but I don't think that's the case. With the FileMaker platform and the people that are here genuinely care, which is nice, it's great, and hopefully you're being appreciated by the folks you're helping out. Very, very, very important. It's going to be an exciting broadcast today. I'm going to bring up our upcoming broadcast schedule here real quick, and we have a couple little announcements along the way. So this is the upcoming broadcast schedule. Today and tomorrow are going to be FileMaker Server, but we're doing the Ubuntu install on 18.04, which is the long-term support release. Yeah, so it's the one that will keep being supported down the road, and you can have confidence it's not just going to dry up and go away next week, which is kind of good because that's what happened to CentOS. All right, Jacob Taylor.
Yep, fantastic. All right, well, I'm going to kill my camera here and switch to my screen. All right, so we want to start out at the very beginning here. There's a few things I will elide for this presentation, but we're mostly going to start from scratch, actually. I do want to demonstrate a couple of things that I haven't done before on these streams. I'm going to note what I'm doing that's weird or different here, so that you all are not like, oh, you know, there's a problem, or Jacob's doing something interesting or whatever. So what we do not currently have is an Ubuntu instance on which to install FileMaker Server. So we need to get that, actually. And so we're going to, you can do all this stuff scripting. We're going to use the nice little graphical environment that Amazon provides for us here. I think you can just put Ubuntu in the search box, and yeah, and then you'll get this. So, so as noted, the specific operating system requirements for FileMaker Server 19.3, again, are Ubuntu instead of CentOS, but it is specifically Ubuntu 18.04, which is on screen here. So,
can I ask a really obvious question? Would it work on 20.04? It's clearly you haven't tried.
So yeah, so two things. One, didn't try it. Two, probably not. But the reason is would either be one of two things. There are libraries that are specifically incompatible with what Claris built, or, and it's a dumber reason, but it's still kind of valid for system integration reasons. They are probably requiring certain packages that are the dependencies for FileMaker Server in Linux that are built in and delivered by Linux. They are probably requiring packages that are named a certain way. And between 18.04 and 20.04, there have been lots of changes in Ubuntu. And it is very, very, very highly likely that some of those required packages, if nothing else, are named differently in the new version, and that part will fail. It's theoretic, I suppose, that you could like hack around that or do weird stuff. I would not recommend it. I would wait until Claris gets on board with 20.04, which they'll hopefully actually do at some point. Also, 18.04 has at least 2 more years of full, like security and bug fix full support from Canonical, which is the company that makes Ubuntu. So
yeah, Oregon Dean just said that same thing. He said that 18.04 with a code name or call sign Bionic Beaver. I've got to get that. That is such a cool. I want when I fly the helicopter, I want to be Bionic Beaver 5 landing.
Mm-hmm. Ubuntu does alliterative animal names for each of their releases. So, you know, B was the 18.04 release, so the Bionic Beaver, and it's always some adjective and some animal. So, all right, so we're going to get to launching this. We are picking our x86, which is Intel, basically, Intel or AMD. So we're going to pick that. We're going to think about this. We'll, I don't know what, do a T3 large maybe? That's a nice one. We could do an X large. We'll do an X large. That's fancy.
Just remember to shut it off, right?
Yeah, correct. They're not that expensive. If you go up to the 2X large, or if I wanted to do an M5, we'd pretty quickly get to exciting hourly costs. But these aren't too bad. So we do that. We do configure our instance details. We're only going to launch one of them. We are going to launch it into what is not actually labeled correctly, but is in fact the default there. You'll need to, so if you're doing this on a fresh account, you won't have to pick most of these things because you'll probably just use the defaults. Some people who know their, cloud security and stuff like that, they'll build a network and a subnet and all that stuff for each thing. If you have a giant IT organization, they will probably do that for you or insist upon it. I would let them generally. We don't have to change most of these details. We can just kind of leave it as is. We're auto-assigning IP addresses, all this stuff. I don't think I can't do anything with that. Okay, cool. So then we add storage, and it comes with a very tiny hard drive, and so we're going to bump the tiny hard drive to 100 gigs, and we're going to make one other change that I highly recommend if you're doing this. Amazon still defaults to GP2 SSDs, which are the older generation. They're not bad, just to be clear, but GP3s are 5 to 8 times faster on average at relevant disk sizes, and 20% cheaper, I think. So it's, in general, I would recommend it. We don't need to add tags, but we do need to configure a security group. So this is going to put us in a position that will work for the moment, at least to get access, but we are setting up a FileMaker server, which means we're going to need more than SSH. SSH is what that's the command line thing that we're going to use to talk to the server, but we would like to have some other ports open. And so we're going to need, as everybody probably at this point knows, we need a port 5003 for FileMaker. We're going to need, what are we? We do 80. We need the web port, HTTPS. We need HTTP. And what am I forgetting? Someone will tell me. No? No one's telling me? What am I forgetting here? Probably want the admin console. Yeah.
44380 admin console. What's 22? 22 is SSH. Okay, yeah.
22 is SSH. Yep.
So is SSH? Is that an encrypted?
It is.
Yeah. On that. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then not probably we're not going to show it today, but an additional port that you could put in here. I believe it's 2399. If you were going to use FileMaker Server as an ODBC data source, you would want to open that. We're not going to demo that today, but
that is one or two questions about that on the certification test, for those you're wondering. So yeah, most time you use FileMaker as a consumer of content, but you can use it as a source. Mm-hmm. With
I just want to note in that case,
with FileMaker Server specifically. Yeah, I don't know if you could do that with Cloud 2. Cloud, the more we learn about Cloud 2, the more we find out how restrictive it is, right? So
cool. All right, so we're going to launch. We are going to choose an existing key pair. In this case, I'm going to reuse one that I have already because I did an Ubuntu one previously. I'm going to acknowledge that I have that already. Here, let's check. Where are we? Okay, so we're going to...
David asked about 16,001.
16,001 is the local access port. You will never use it off the machine.
Yeah, so it never goes across the network and hits it. So it's what you use when you're actually on the box, like if you were like on the monitor hooked to the box, as if you could do that. So.
Yep. So I have the key, so we're going to do that. We're going to launch. This will take a couple seconds.
I think that's a test question too, technically. 16,000, 16,001. Better know which one's which.
Yeah, and then there's a 16,002 is an internal communication port, and 16,005 is as well.
I don't know about those. I think they simplified this quite a bit at one point. It was really out of hand.
Yeah, well, for outside communications, it used to be more complicated. There's a much shorter list of ports now. A lot of the old ports though are retained, but they're for internal communication. So they have to be like available on the server, but they're not for external communication at all. They're like one of the FileMaker processes hooks up to a local host port, and then another one uses that as a communication mechanism, basically.
If you're going to do Active Directory, would you open anything or no?
No.
Okay.
You don't need to. The reason for that is because If you and I don't know. Let me think. So if you did no, because if you're doing any of the OAuth ones, those are going to go over the web ports anyway.
And
Because those are just
FileMaker's initiating the communication
callbacks.
out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, correct. And then the other one is just to actual Active Directory, which is a Windows one. In that case, the communication isn't done through the FileMaker server necessarily. It has to be on the domain, but your computer does the actual, like your client PC talks to the domain controller to be like, you're in this group, yeah. Are you this user in that group? Yeah. Oh, okay, so you have access to blah, blah, blah databases and stuff like that. FileMaker server doesn't. Maybe it phones home on the back end. I don't know if there's a third leg to that or not, but it doesn't require any ports opening.
That's fine.
Way, so. All right,
we are going to roll out the Azure Active Directory at RCC. So we had a live stream on that. We are going to do that at RCC.
We'll do that and then live stream it again and be like, all right,
here's
what we ran into.
Yeah.
Let's see what Benedict is linking here. Is this that big port sheet? Yes, this is the port sheet. Oh yeah. Okay, so let me show you. This is the chart that's not correct.
Good job, Benedict.
Right there. Yeah, he found the chart. So I always want to call this out. This chart's wrong, and it still hasn't been fixed. And the thing that it communicates is that the workers, the model for having a firewall between the clients and the workers, and then again another firewall between the workers and the master, doesn't work. The clients out on the internet have to be able to talk to the master at the back. So,
they do.
Yes. So all the firewall rules on the right side here should also be on the left side, or actually probably not all of them, but a couple of them.
Okay. Well, most people don't do the worker thing, but if you did, that's what you're gonna have to know about.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing to know. So, all right. So this thing's up and running. So we have a random. So this is I'll do a quick little thing about Amazon. So I launched it. This machine is up and running. Probably it's likely ready to go at this point. So what you'll see here is there's these three boxes. So we have public IPv4 DNS, public IPv4 address, and then elastic IP. So what this actually is a kind of randomly assigned IP. It's kind of like a residential IP address. If you guys are familiar, you might know that, if you're at home and you don't pay for business internet or something like that, often your IP changes. I don't know if it's actually as popular to swap them around all the time as it used to be. Internet service providers used to swap your IP every week or do stuff like that. I don't know if there was a good reason for that at the time, but that has slowed down a lot these days. So it's much longer, a month, a financial quarter, 6 months, something like that, your stuff will swap. But it's basically the same thing. And the difference, though, is in Amazon, the way that this works is if you shut the machine down for long enough, you get a new number when it comes back up again. And so if you just do a straight up reboot, like I'm just going to restart, it comes down and immediately back up again, you'll usually get the same number. But if it's down for a minute or, because you're going to go change a setting.
So this is really dynamic then here, right? Dynamic.
Correct, yeah.
And this, which sounds like fluid and flexible.
Sounds like the dynamic.
It sounds like dynamic. This is actually the static, right? I always hated that. Yeah.
Yep. And so I'll demo one thing here, which is I'm going to wire up an elastic IP here. I'm going to completely ignore this IPv4 actually, because we have one of these, and it's actually the one that I used before. And this is, in fact, the point of elastic IPs is that they are reusable. So we have one over here, and I helpfully labeled it for myself so I wouldn't forget which one. And that's what it is. It's ubuntu.rcc.com, and this is the IP address. And so we're going to take it, and we don't need to allocate one. That would be if we're getting a new one. We're going to take it, and we're going to associate it. And it's going to pop up. And it's going to take us to this screen. And so what we're doing is we're taking this IP address, and we're duct taping it on the face of what? Let's see. The only one in this list that's not labeled, because I didn't label it, is that one. So that's going to be our just launched Ubuntu machine, right? So then we associate. And about 5 seconds after I click that button, that machine has that IP address. And so I can come back over here to instances, and I will look at, let me click on there it is. I'm going to select this one so we're only looking at the one. And so now there's our elastic IP. And so if you refresh this, there we go. So now we have this IP address is attached to it. wonder if we can even use that one actually.
I'm wondering. Yeah.
This one should be dead already. So usually when you apply an elastic IP to a machine, I'm waiting for this to show the same number as here because that's what it's supposed to do.
Oh, it overwrites the kind of. Oh, I
Correct.
see,
Yeah,
I
it
see.
totally. Yeah, and so that thing, I'm done with it. I don't want to wait. So, and so this is the IP address of that server now. I just magically assigned it and wired this number up to the front. So you can think of them kind of like names. You can repoint them and stuff. Let me do.
Yeah, Oregon Dean says it will overwrite. Yeah, I think it just matter of a couple of minutes.
That thing will be labeled now. All right, so the final thing is, all right, let's log into the machine. So I verified that I had the key beforehand, mostly to show you guys doing that, and so that Amazon knows, or so that I know, and I had to commit to Amazon. Yes, Amazon, I already have that key, so we know it's there. We know where it is. So we're gonna log in. Oops, I do have to type the command right. So what I'm gonna do here is. So on Amazon and with Amazon Linux instances, they don't come with like passwords that you log in with. You use a key file. And so that key file is the thing that I committed to already possessing. You'd create a new one. If you were doing this totally from scratch, you'd create a new one and it would give you a file like this. If you named it Ubuntu 193 FMS, it would give you Ubuntu 193 FMS.pen. And that it'll.
And so this is just a text file, right? Basically, then.
That's it. Yeah, correct.
It doesn't say TXT. It's PEM as the extension. Okay.
Yep. But functionally it's a text file, and it contains encryption stuff. It's secret key material. But yeah, fundamentally it's a text file.
Yeah, I always like to know fundamentally what it is, so I know what I'm dealing with. So.
I'm going to specify. So what I means is identity. So I am specifying what is my identity. So I'm going to use this file to identify myself. This is my identity. And then because this is Ubuntu, the default user on an Ubuntu machine is Ubuntu. And then that address that we had before. So I'm going to do ubuntu.rcc.com. And it's going to give us an amazing, fantastic error. What does this error say? This error tells me that I have logged into a machine on this exact same address previously, and it had a different key. And it's screaming because it thinks maybe someone is either intercepting me or has hacked and blown up my server.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to
Is it going to do this every time or just one time?
No, just one time. It does it. Well, it will do it every time. And you saw actually it refused to connect. And so I'm going to go in and delete. There's a bunch of these in here. I'm going to go in and delete the line, and that'll solve the problem. So.
Okay, so it's refusing to log in because we recycled our key, our PIN.
The address.
Right.
Yeah, it's so the logins are per domain basically. You can see like there's a couple IP addresses and stuff in here up top left. Here's an IP.
Yeah.
Here's an IP, etc. That I've logged into previously basically. That's why enter. Awesome. So now if I do this, it'll log right in. Except what it'll do is it'll do what generated that in the first place. It'll ask me, "Are you sure?" Then you say yes, and then it will scream in the future if anything changes. So we're now logged into our system. Is that text good, big enough?
Yeah, it's plenty good. It's a lot of it. I'm trying to read it. Don't go too fast here.
Yes, thank you, Christian. I will clean up my known hosts file. He says to clean it up. All right, so the one thing that we'll need here. So we've logged in. We've done nothing. Awesomely, this thing seems to be totally up to date, so we don't even have to. I guess we could do software updates. See if there's anything. That's always good practice. Check your software updates.
So just to be clear, I mean, this reminds me of logging into the terminals and stuff like that when I was in college 30 years ago. So we are logged on the machine, but it's all command line. So there's no graphical interface for those of us who like little icons and mouses and things like that.
Correct. Yeah. And you could install like a desktop environment on Linux and then use a remote desktop software, for example, to log into it, basically. That's totally doable. And I think actually some of the people who were testing FileMaker Server on Ubuntu, I think that's the type of machine that they were using. I saw some traffic, we'll just say previously, that indicated that Claire's had worked around some issues that those people ran into particularly, actually.
Okay.
I guess there's a chunk of people that basically it's like they want there to be a user interface, kind of like the way we run Windows machines and stuff,
Yeah.
so that there's something someone can go look at. Same concept, but people are doing that with on-site Ubuntu, basically.
Okay.
So
interesting.
And so this thing will be just about done. We'll reboot it, which will take about 30 seconds, and then we're going to go for the install. And you guys will laugh because it goes pretty quick, actually. I had no, and I will tell you actually one way not to do it because I practiced this, we'll say ahead of time on Monday earlier this week. And absolutely flambéed the server the first time by not following the directions because I was like, well, I know a lot about Linux, like I'll be fine. And just to be clear, I was fine actually, but yeah, it was unnecessarily exciting.
Unnecessarily exciting. It's like running out of gas in a helicopter. It's just like unnecessarily exciting.
Yep. All right, so we're up to date.
Yeah,
I'm going to reboot the machine, and that'll be up in about 30 seconds, and then we're going to prep over here. I'm going to grab the link to the Linux, the Ubuntu copy. Or not, oops. I'm doing the wrong thing. I don't want to do that, yeah. I want to copy the link. All right, perfect. So, this back up. So I'll go
Canberra
back.
posted a message to you there.
With the current list, using a little overhead. Yeah, correct. Yeah, current Linux distros are, frankly, they're pretty easy to interact with. And at this point, most of the desktop environments, there used to be some fighting about the resource usage and stuff like that back in the day. But I'll just, to update everybody, that was 10 or 15 years ago, and it's basically not really an issue anymore. And so if you want to run a graphical environment on your Linux machine so that you can click on stuff, that's fine. And actually, for a bunch of things these days, people are beginning to actually build graphical stuff, graphical environments that drive, server processes on Linux and stuff like that. Whereas, of course, traditionally everything was command line, and that was, at a certain level, that's kind of why people would stay away from it at a certain point. But I've been running into, actually, for a humorous example is if you've ever played Minecraft, or if you're of a certain age, maybe your kids play Minecraft, or grandkids even. A lot of the Linux, even the Linux Minecraft server management stuff is graphical. You can go click buttons and it'll handle all your stuff for you. So, all right. So we're going to do, the very first step is we have to get our copy of FileMaker Server here. And I'm just copying a link off of ours. You can grab it directly from your license page. If you go to your own license page that has your key details and stuff like that on it, and basically download the installer. Let me see here. So we're going to use wget because this is Ubuntu. I'm going to paste. So that's ours. We hosted this. This will go out when we notify everybody of the new versions of everything. Basically, all wget does what it says. Webget, get a file, get a whatever off the internet. So I'm going to do that. It's going to download in a few seconds. All right, so that downloaded, and then we have to do one thing, and I think this is going to error out, so it'll be funny. So we're going to unzip, and then the name of it is FMS. So what I've done there is unzip is a program installed. Oh, actually, it's not a program installed, so I'll do that, and then it'll error, and I'll show you what that means. But if you start typing something on Linux and you do tab, most command lines will help you. If there's a bunch of different options that you might, it's like, oh, I have FMS and I have 19.2 and 19.3. It'll go to 19 point and it'll be like, did you want 2 or 3? You should pick. So I'm going to do that. It's going to tell me, awesome. So we don't have that. So we're going to follow the wonderful directions that it has provided us, and we're going to install the unzip program, which will do what it says. And then what I'm doing here, if you can see us switching, I'm using the up arrow to go find a previous command. As you can see, I can go back. So we'll do unzip. Spit. There it went. It spat all the files out. So we're good to go. And so the one fair warning here is that I have used Ubuntu before. And so when I'm dealing with a local deb like this, I'm a little old school and I default to using dpackage, which would look like FileMaker. It would look like that would be the command that you'd use, which is sort of normal for people who are doing local installations. If you haven't done that before, it's fine. I just have to tell you, it doesn't work. It will blow up. Don't do it. Thanks. They have built the FileMaker Server installer so that it really only runs under apt. So you're going to have to do apt install and then FileMaker. Oops. And then apt works differently, so you have to do the dot and the slash at the beginning specifies the dot is current directory, and then you have to do slash and then the file name. So one of the good questions in Discord that I'll pull out for the people on Twitch and YouTube is someone, Scott Kane asked what sudo means is, because I keep typing that at the beginning of my sentences, right? Apt, that's the package manager, and then install is the command, and then what am I installing? Okay, but at the beginning I have this sudo thing here. What that what that stands for is super user do, and that means whatever comes after it. So sudo, in this case, we're going to look at what's on screen. So we have sudo apt install something. So sudo is going to mean that the apt and everything that comes after it right there is going to run as an administrator user, because right now I'm logged in as some rando named Ubuntu. Who is that? Nobody knows. Why would they have? They don't have any power to install software on the system or that kind of stuff. Obviously, within your own user folder, you could like download an app and run it out of your desktop or something like that.
All right, hang on. This is a really good graphic right here. I don't know if I can bring this up or not. Well, this is it. So make me a sandwich. So this is Jacob over here. Here's his Linux server. And then sudo is like, oh, okay, thank you, right? So it's very much how that is.
Yeah, so if you do that, right, permission denied, unable to blah, 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 blah. Are you root? No. I am Ubuntu, so I don't have any power here. So we're going to so we'll actually do the installs. We're going to do sudo apt install, and then we're going to do FileMaker Server. And then this part is actually pretty slick. So what this has just done is Claris has a list of details that have to be installed on the server. I could probably tell you what most of these are, but I think most of you don't care. The ones to pull out are Apache, which is the web server stuff, pulls in some certificate authority stuff. You can see actually down here at the end is the other cool stuff, which is this is the Java. Java gets pulled in automatically, so we don't have to install Corretto or something like that. It comes right in with it. And then it'll have some other, sometimes it'll give you a list of suggested packages that are similar to or add features to the ones that you've just done. And then finally, here is our list. This is what's going to be done. Like here's the kind of the final report. I'm Linux. I'm planning to do these things to your system. Does that sound?
Before you hit yes, Scott Kane's asking a question. So where physically is the FileMaker -server _ file? I think he's talking about your installer, right? That's a deb file, right? Or the
on the server, yes.
So you downloaded it and then you decompressed it, right? Is that what you did, right?
So yeah, the two commands that I just ran on screen answer that question. So I am in my own home directory. I'm the user Ubuntu on this, and so I have a home directory, and my name is Ubuntu, so that's where that is. And then ls is list the contents of this directory. And so the contents of this directory are the assisted install.txt if you were going to customize your licensing information and pre-build it in. I didn't do that. I'm not demoing that today. But you could pre-program that with for example, your admin console username and password and stuff like that. Or the location of your license certificate file.
Sure.
Those can be pre-programmed in. So.
Then real quick, so the deb is actually the installer, and then this is the zip. Is that what I?
Yeah, the zip contained all of the things that are not the zip on the screen right now.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I had to get up and grab a drink, and then I sat back down, and then I realized that I'd missed an important piece of this.
Yeah, that was when I did this unzip command.
Yep.
So that just it spat all the.
I missed all that.
Blew it all
Okay.
out.
So we are
out,
using a zip to get this stuff down. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
zip is universally useful everywhere. Great.
Yep.
All right. So if the file's local, Scott came, then we're going to run it, and the installer doesn't say installer or DMG on the Mac or whatever it says. It was a setup on Windows, DMG on the Mac, and here it's a DEB fed, which is different than. Yeah.
And so we have that, and so it'll say note selecting FileMaker Server instead of this because that's what it's going to do. So here's all the prerequisites.
And it needs.
So at this point we're going to say yes.
2.2 gigs. Is that what it says there? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. All right.
So it's going to download 400 megabytes of stuff, and then that's going to take about 2.2 gigs. And so this is going to stream a large volume of text because we're pulling in a whole bunch of stuff. So it downloaded everything. It's now spitting them out on disk, which it will do in one step, and then afterwards it will do a post install configuration step, and then it will move on to actually installing the FileMaker Server software.
So this is still okay. It's unpacking. Okay, I see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unpacking. So these are the requirements. Some of that stuff is, it's obvious things like Apache, which is the web server. Some of it's also non-obvious. There's fonts in there. There's a PDF library hidden in there somewhere, which is what lets you do the server-side PDF generation and stuff like that. So it is now asking us, we need to agree. Let me see if I can make that slightly smaller. It didn't quite do what I was hoping, but that's close. So it's asking us, we need to agree to basically the license agreement, so we're going to say yes. And now this is server setup. It's like you were going through the installer. So we're going to have a primary or a secondary machine. We're not doing a WebDirect worker, so we don't have to do one of those. We're going to primary machine, and then use this account. So this is going to be our admin console credentials. So we're going to be admin and super secure password.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or something.
Yeah.
And then we talked about the 4-digit PIN, right? So this is the same as what we've seen before in the Mac and Windows installs, is in a command line interface, right? So.
Yep, and that's it. And so those are the details that were needed. Again, if you customize the assisted install.txt in between the point where you unzipped everything and the point where you run the deb file like I did, then you can like pre-program in your licensing or something like that. As it stands, this server will come up in trial mode, but obviously you can go to the admin console and feed it your license certificate or do it at the front, whichever is more comfortable for you. If you're doing it by hand, maybe you're going to give it the license certificate rather than do this stuff. But if you're trying to do like automated server deploys and stuff, you're probably going to ship the license certificate out. So send it along with the deb. Yeah, good explanation there, Benedict. Thank you. He explained one of the commands that I did earlier, which was pwd, which is print working directory. It's just where
not
am
password, I? Not password. It's print for
nope.
working. I see that. No, I think password is what I see. But
yeah. No, most of the password ones are literally like pass WD or pass something.
So an important topic for today. So this is a 2-day broadcast, so we're kind of land the plane here in a minute, but we're doing most of the installation today. So tomorrow is really dependent upon you folks coming back with questions about Linux. Frankly, if you have questions about Amazon along the way, we can probably pick those off as well. So yeah,
because I'm gonna let this. I'll let this thing sit until tomorrow. So if you guys want to say, "Hey, Jacob, try this," whatever, we can do that. So basically, at this point, it's done. They recommend rebooting after you do this, so I'm going to do that. But
how do you do a restart?
Reboot. Literally, that's the command. Literally,
really?
Yeah. Obviously, I have to be an administrator to do it, so I have to do sudo reboot. But that's so it'll come back up in about 30 seconds, and we will have a FileMaker server. It will not have an SSL certificate. It will not have licensing. If you need to set up ODBC, there's additional steps, which actually is different from how the CentOS Linux one was. That was a thing I wanted to call out yesterday. On CentOS, it brought in the Oracle, the MySQL, what's the third one? There's 3 kind of main and major ones that people use, and it drug those in with the install basically. And the Ubuntu doesn't do that. You have to. There's a couple of them that you have to go fetch if you're going to use them. So they're not installed by default. So we'll log back in, and we're up. Cool. And so we have a FileMaker server here. So if I go look, there's an application called HTOP. And you can actually see right there, there's a FileMaker server process running. You see opt FileMaker server, there's the admin console, there's something that's part of the database server over there on the right side you can see. So we're like live.
Okay.
So
we could log on with the administrative browser.
Correct.
Now,
if I do that right there, and it's going to complain because, right, it has that default scrambled
you don't have the
credentials.
SSL installed yet, right? So.
Oh, I keep running into this problem. It won't let me, even in an incognito window, it won't let me around the, yeah. We may have to demo the SSL install tomorrow, actually. That would be good.
Yeah, I mean, we should definitely do that. I mean, we got 10 minutes yet. Do you want to do it now, or is that too long?
We can do it now. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, then, we can do that now, and then we'll pick up the conversation tomorrow.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, give me 2 seconds.
Someone's just asking us real quick what the instances we're using, because they missed the beginning of it. Raccoon Ops showed up.
Yes, this is an AWS instance. It's a T3X large.
Yeah. But you don't need a T3X large unless you need that kind of horsepower.
Yeah. If you're talking 25 to 40 people, that's a good range.
Yeah. That's what 25, we're using, right? That we're using?
Yeah, correct. Okay. Yep, that's what 4 is. Okay. And then where are we? This is that thing. So we're going to do scpi Dropbox Cloud Ubuntu, and then it's going to be. Can I do to Ubuntu at ubuntu.rcc.com home Ubuntu? Let's see if that'll work. Totally guessing. Nice. Oh, that'll do it perfectly. Fantastic. Cool. All right. So, sorry, that's a little off, but what I did is I took the SSL certificate for RCC and put it up on the server. This is secure copy program. Same thing as the I that I did before. What's my identity that I'm logging in with? It's this thing. This means in the current directory, upload all files. Not anything that's in a subdirectory, but in the current directory, all files, which is these two right here. And then this is where are you going to put it? And so this is the user at what computer, and then location on the computer. So, and so I'm going to switch back over here to my computer, and we're going to list, and we're going to see, hey, there's our zip. So we're going to use that wonderful thing that we did already. And then now we have an SSL certificate. So let's do as we've done before, FMS admin, help certificate. There it is. So we're going to do FMS admin is our certificate import. And then what do? We have to do what's the import for the import operation? Did they give an example of the import? There it is. Okay. So this is our example that we're going to work off of. So we're going to say, and the one recommendation is to use full paths for everything, which makes this really annoying, frankly, but something dot, and then we're going to use CRT because that's the certificate. And then we need 2 things, though. We need the intermediate, or you'll have SSL problems. And that's going to be home, Ubuntu, and then that GD bundle, whatever that thing is. You guys have seen that. It's a GoDaddy certificate. And then the final one is a key file. So we're going to do key file. Correct, key file. Yes. All right. So home, Ubuntu, asterisk, and then key. Yeah. Yep, that looks good. Yep. Okay, so we'll hit enter. We're going to say, do we really want to import the certificate? And you say yes. And then this is, as always, counterintuitively, this is asking for my admin console credentials. Beautiful. And I'm actually not going to restart the FileMaker servers. I'm going to reboot the whole server because that's way faster. And so when it comes back up again, 30 seconds, we have just installed SSL. Let's see. I assume people were asking questions in Twitch or Discord. Oregon Dean, instructions for which part? I'm just going to, if I have the instructions written down. Is that like which commands or? Oh, post install SSL. No, they haven't been written down. I actually had to figure out the reason I was able to figure out, oh, you can do the certificate one, is because I ran into basically the same issue Monday, because all the browsers are starting to lock down SSL and stuff, and so it's difficult. You can't like go log into the machine on admin console after install with its its little temp SSL directory, SSL or whatever. You can't like go in because most and eventually all browsers will fight you. And I can I know how to beat the browser up so it obeys, but I'm not going to deal with that. So this server is now up. It rebooted again. We should be able to hit F5 on this, and there's our admin console. Hey, so we're going to log in, and we're going to go, okay. That's a bug, I think. I should probably report that. But we're here. We have our demo license because again there's no license installed in the server, so it's on a trial, and then here's our certificate expiring sometime next year, so we're there. And you start configuring a couple of additional backups and turning your auto open databases and stuff off and moving on with it. So if you wanted to, for example, you can immediately turn on the web publishing engine. Hold on, let me do can I put one on? No, that's gonna be really ugly. All right, well, we'll just do this. Turn that on, and then you're gonna see this thing scream. And so there is the web publishing engine launching, and it's gonna use all kinds of CPU for a short while, and then it'll die back down again. And when it does, it'll turn blue and say running. There you go. Yep. So if I come back over here, our CPU is back down. Okay, cool. We turn this on, and it'll jump for a second and then come back. And when we do this, hey, web direct. So like you're live. And so like if you don't use plugins on the server, don't use ODBC, don't, any of that kind of stuff. And actually if you're going to do plugin install by, perform script on server and install it that way or something, like you're basically like, it's a basic install. So you haven't done any of the configuration. For example, you will want to set the RAM cache, even if you basically started using the server as it is.
Yes, you must set the RAM cache.
Add some backups and fix the RAM cache. If you do nothing else, like this will run. So there's more that you can do. Obviously, we talk about all the things that we recommend you do, but this will, if you're just making a test server or something like that. And it's worth noting. So we've done all that. We booted everything up. We've got. I didn't turn DAPI on. Hold on, let me turn DAPI on. That's max RAM usage, I think, right? Get all that stuff. We could do ODBC. I'm not going to turn OData or ODBC on. So then if we go back over here, so all right, so we have everything running. We have WebDirect, we have DAPI, web publishing, 1.8 gigs of RAM.
Maybe tomorrow what we do is we install the Monkey Bread plugin, just so Christian feels like we still love him. Prior to tomorrow's conversation.
See. All that more to do. Yeah, you can copy MBX. Oh yeah, that's right. He said he has a build for. Okay, so extensions for FMS, web publishing for CWPC. Oh, and the WIP folder is where DAPI plugins go. I got you. Okay, cool. Yeah, nice. Awesome. Yeah, we could do that as a demo tomorrow. We haven't demoed the new feature. So this is the log viewer.
Show me the logs.
You guys want to see the log viewer? I know, it's like they brought it back. So we're admin console, logs tab, and then you have log viewer and log settings. So log settings is the old one, turning on top call statistics and server profiling statistics. And then there's a new setting, which is how big of a chunk of log do you want the thing to show. And then when you come over here, you'll have nothing by default, and you're going to pick. In this case, I only have the event log. But for example, if the data API receives a few right. If it
the
receives
access log or
your
whatever.
request or access log, or or the web presentation log, or I actually don't know if it'll do the 360 logs, for example, because they spit their logs into a folder in that directory. That would be cool. I don't know. I need to look actually, but it definitely gets all the FileMaker logs. And so if you need to,
Yeah, top calls on the certification test, just so you folks know. Top calls identifies the top high demand items, right? So
yeah, it's hot code paths. What is your app is doing stuff? What's it doing a lot of? And it gives you that. And then you can compare that to what you think your app should be doing because you designed it. And if those two things differ, you may have that may be a way to either identify an optimization, fix a problem, something like that.
All right. So what we're going to do tomorrow is, if it's okay, can we invite Christian Schmidt to come to this tomorrow? So he can actually provide additional awesome. Putting you two in the room at the same time might be just dangerous, because you guys would be like, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And before long, you got a small, low yield nuclear reactor cruising along on your Linux server, right? Jacob and Christian, probably the two smartest people I know. It could be very dangerous to the health of everyone around here. Every time I look at logs, I want to see the whole log, and so then you can see with the log seams. And you can't really see the long seams here very well. It's a word I learned from Jacob, like repaving your server and things like that. So it's hard to see the seams in here. So
we're not going to see any seams on this one. Yeah. I don't. That's a good point, actually. I'm not sure. I haven't tried to do a recovery with that, because I'm always looking at the log file, because when I'm looking for log seams, usually FMS is in some state of off or dead or otherwise a problem.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't even be looking at the admin console in that scenario. So it's a good question, but we'd need a 19.3 server to crash so I can see how good or bad it is for that.
Dave Angel has a question. I'm going to request that we pick it up tomorrow. You folks are having questions. Please bring your kind of question. He has a question about the logs log user security. I think that's the access logs, right? Does more of that, right?
I don't know what logs user security means, but it would be.
Do the logs log user security is what he wrote, I'm pretty sure. And it tells them what account they use. It doesn't tell you the password, but
that'd be the access. Yeah, that's the
access log.
It tells when people log in and log out. Yeah.
Yeah. Which you'll see a lot of people log in, and then you don't see a lot of people logging out, or at least correctly. They just are disconnected or whatever they do.
Ubuntu. Yeah. So if I come over here, so here's mine, so we can log in. We'll log into the sample file for giggles. So here we are, we're logged into the sample file. If I come over here to the database, hey, there I am. And then, so actually, that should have generated another log. So if I come over here, I'm going to show up. Do we have an access.log? We should.
Log settings. Do we have a access? Go to log settings.
I have to log out. I have to log out.
Log settings? Where do we turn on we want that log?
You don't turn on anything. It shows up in the menu. That's what I'm waiting.
There look at that.
I was waiting.
Delay.
Yeah, if they're not there, they just don't appear. So here's the access log, and so here's me.
So Jacob is a
client connection from opened a connection from Turbo Mini using Pro 19.3.1. Open database as guest.
Yeah.
Close database as guest, and disconnected. Done.
Okay.
So there's my 4 entries with what I just did.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have time today, but it would be fun just to pull, to log in, then force quit it, and then see what kind of log entry, what it logs for a disconnect on that. Because eventually it would just lose contact after 120 seconds.
Do an app kill. Yeah, you'd probably end up with a timeout in.
Well, in the log entry would be a timeout.
You'd end up with a timeout in event, because that's where those go. That actually would be a good question.
That's a good question.
I don't know what the access log does in that situation.
Yeah, but the point is the access logs will, everyone has to log in, but no one has to log out. It's like it's that old Eagles song, Hotel California, right? People check in, but they don't check out. Roaches check in to the Roach Motel, but they don't check out. Yeah, so that's because people are on their iPhones and iPads, and they just get disconnected from the internet or whatever happens, right? So you can't ever count on the closed scripts running, right? Which is kind of where I was going with that. So, all right, we're gonna pick this up tomorrow. We got a lot to do. We got to cover an hour tomorrow. So Christian Schmidt, if you're around, if you want to show up and be helpful and useful, and then people can think really positively about you and your plugin, that would be great. And so Margaret, make sure a note to join him in. And we're going to play more with this server. And what do we call this window right here? It's obviously like the process.
Oh, the thing I'm looking at, this app is called HTOP. Yeah, it does come on most of them.
Okay,
I think it didn't used to be standard when I started out in Linux 15 years ago, but it now comes by default because it's everybody, like, there's like 3 things that everybody goes and installs immediately after setting the system up, and this was one of them. And so at some point they were just like, well, we'll include it. The old school one is called regular. It's not top. It's not HTOP. It's top. And
This is funny. You and Monkey Bread just said the same thing. That's so funny.
Yeah,
Oh,
correct.
okay, there you go.
So, and you can see top is ugly. The information isn't as usable or useful, and so that's why HTOP is a different piece of software. It's a different group of people, etc. But it's much more useful for actually seeing what's going on. And like this is a little, Java. What's Java? I don't know. Well, if I go over to HTOP, I can see which Java. I can see all the command line arguments for it and tell like which one, what is it doing, etc. The fact start that you just saw that's the admin console. So.
All right, folks. So that's it for today. Good job, everyone. We're learning all the fancy bells and whistles of being a Linux administrator. For those of you who hate being a Linux administrator, then just come back on Monday. Very cool. All righty then. See you tomorrow for Monkey Bread on your Linux server.
And the guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected. The quarterback, great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.